Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. Milo says hello too. On today's show, the Portulacaria Afras are going to get a haircut, just like I did. It is another stunning day in Minnesota. We've got some clouds, we've got some sun, we've got temps in the lower 70s. It's cool, not too humid. It just feels fantastic. So today on the show, I've got a lot of PAs to tackle. Now, many of them go pretty fast because we're just going to cut off the big bushy growth, like on this one right here. This one's just sprouting all over the place. We're just going to make things shorter, more compact. We'll keep all the cuttings and see if we can put some more into some more soil for down the road. Now this will probably be my last prune before we bring them in this fall. So they'll have all of August and part of September to just shoot out some new growth, and then we'll bring them inside, let them relax for a couple of months, and then they'll be doing some really good growth under the grow lights downstairs in the plant room. And speaking of the plant room, I've already started to do some pre-cleaning and pre-preparation for the fall and winter to come. Now, before I bring anything into the plant room, I have to fix my second repurposed bench that I got, glass table from a neighbor a year or so ago. I already did one repurposing, but today we're going to do the other one. I got to do some sanding, and I've got to take some spray paint and get it all black like the other one. And the other one that I had downstairs, I made a little kind of a boost, if you will, kind of a table holder to raise everything up a good 12 to 16 inches, and so those plants will be closer to the light. So, with the airplane creating more noise and Miles still wanting to say hi, let's show you first what we did with the spray painting of the glass table to get ready for the plant room. And then we'll come back and work on some PAs. Hi Milo! Hi Milo! Spray painting is done, so they're back in the sun, drying. They should be good to go. Might a little bit of touch-up work later on this afternoon. So we've got some Portulacaria Afras here. Look at the three, the forest of three planting, just growth everywhere. And here's the newest planting, the new forest of I think 5. It's shooting up everywhere too. So we're going to bring things compact and just get everything all tidy for the last month, 2 months of growth here out here on the porch. But before we do that, we've talked a lot about a problem I've had this year, and anybody guess what it is? What has Dave talked about a lot this year? It's critter chop. I have a critter problem. It's been that way for the last year. This has been a tough year for critters and critter chop, and those of you who have watched the channel for a while have known that we've lost a few trees here in the backyard to the critters. And they're not mice. I think they're a vole, and I've seen them a lot. And I'm gonna try the humane approach, and we're going to try to catch a few. It's funny, on the directions in the box it says put some food or your little whatever you're attracting them to the trap in the little corner, close the case, catch the mouse or vole, and then bring it 3 miles away so it doesn't bother you anymore. So I got to find a place that I can drop them off and hopefully not bother somebody else's trees. Take a look at the paths in my own yard right by my cabin cold frame where these voles have been hanging out. As you can see right here, we've got some vole tracks. Yeah, the grass hadn't been cut for a couple of weeks back here, and with all the watering from my automatic water system, a lot of grass started to grow. When I came back and cut the grass, back after my long road trip, look at the vole paths. And while I was cutting the grass, I actually scared one away. Yeah, it's time to do something. Just yesterday, I did a walkthrough of the garden and published a video on this channel for you all to see my beautiful garden, the beautiful trees. Well, thanks for everybody who said that was beautiful. I certainly like the backyard. But This was one of the Siberian forests that I showed you when we talked about the cabin cold frame trees. All these trees in this area. Just yesterday, this was full of life and vigor. I have life and vigor over here, but look right there. Critter chop! So the critters, not only the Japanese maples, but the voles, really seem to like the Siberian firs. So we need to put some food in a trap and take care of them. Here we go. We got some cheese in the trap, and we're here by the cabin cold frame. Evidence of them chewing literally in the last 12 to 24 hours. Typically when I see them in this area, they come down here below the deck, or they come back over here in this corner by the deck. I think I'm going to go with this corner right here so I don't see the trap. It's not so visual to me, and we'll hope. So they're going to crawl in through here. They're going to walk up the little fence. It's going to teeter-totter. They're going to go ahead and get some of that morsel of cheese, fill their bellies, turn around, and they won't be able to get back. Now what's also funny about the package on this one, it says it can catch up to 3 at a time. So I wonder if there's one in there and one's trying to get in, the other mouse or vole goes, no, wait, stop, go back. No, maybe not. I'll be happy if I get one and we'll drive it 3 miles away. Let's put it into place. Yeah, so right under here, nice little comfy, cozy place for him to go. We're just going to put that right there and hope he goes and gets some cheese. Perfectly safe, no harm done, and we'll ship him out. While making a pass with the lawnmower right next to the deck, this is where I saw the vole go in. Now just earlier today I was checking my barrel system for my watering system, and I could hear the vole, and I was looking around, and sure enough he just kind of waved and went inside the branches and the trunks and the old bonsais that haven't made it. So we're going to go ahead and put this one here because they come in right here. There's some nice little highways where the rocks aren't anymore. And we're going to go ahead and put one right there. Kind of hidden, but he'll come up right here and hopefully you'll smell that cheese, and yeah, we'll take care of that one and bring him 3 miles away. So just yesterday I was able to put all my trees back into some spots they were in before the big 9-day road trip. And so all my Portulacarias and my Thanksgiving cactuses are back up on my deck. And we'll take a quick little tour. We've got all kinds of little cuttings that are starting to get a little bit more size, some thickness. Those are doing really well. Look at this guy. We'll be trimming that one today. A lot of little ones. Oh, there's a big long one right there shooting left and right. And there's the one I showed at the intro. Spider-Man, webs going all over the place. There's the Thanksgiving cactus, doing really well. There's one of the ones we're going to tackle today. It's the solo tree, Portulacarias. A couple of jades in there, the big leaf jade and the Portulacarias. This is a variegated. These two variegateds, they typically grow a lot slower. We won't have to do much to those today. We'll just probably let them continue to grow. Look at this one in this square pot, just thick, and I don't even know if that's 1 or 2 trunks. I can't remember. A couple more Thanksgiving cacti that are starting to get more tree-like form. That one's looking more like a tree every month, every year for sure. And there we go, the big ones. We've got the big 3 forest, the big 5 forest, and another little cutting there. So Portulacarias as far as the eye can see, and we are going to grab the forest of 3 first as the sun goes down. So here we go on PA number 1. This one is the forest of 3. That has just shot in a ton of growth now. That bonsai shuffle out in the spring, getting these out and ready to grow. It's always slow growth for a month or so, and then by July they start to take off, and they're doing really, really great things. Now, I could let these completely shoot out longer and longer and get even more thickness on the trunk, but I want to make sure I don't make some of the primary branches that I'm not really concerned about right now too thick. Because if I get all these, let them grow, and they get super thick fast, which they do, we'll have no real taper and maybe some extra thickness higher on the trunk. So we typically work on our trees where we have the bottom get thick as we want them, and then we move them up from there. Now these 3 could be an individual pot someday. It's not the most, crazy attractive forest of 3. It's not really a forest, it's kind of a clump of PAs. But anyway, this is the proposed front. And then you got all these crisscrossing branches. Look at this tree right here with the movement. Comes up here, splits on over here, comes way over here. Look at this. This will be a really good cutting. So I got a lot of cuttings I can have here on the tree. So we'll just go ahead and we'll make some really aggressive cuts this time of year. I didn't water it today. It's been watered every day when I was gone, but I did not water it today. And yesterday it was watered at about 6 o'clock in the morning. Had all of the heat yesterday, and this is pretty dry. So we'll cut off all the foliage or all the branches today, and then we'll let it go another day without watering. And then it'll just start to get the new growth, and we'll do really good things with it. So again, I don't know if these will be ever separated someday, because in here I have very little growth on the inside. You can see right in here there's very little growth in there, but that's because all this shades it out, right? So as I cut more branches back, we might get some more back budding. And if I do put it in a different pot someday as a solo tree, it'll start shooting out. I won't be too worried about that. But let's go ahead and start with, let us start with this back tree. It's leaning really far back, which again is really odd for the front of the forest being here. I did have some death right here. So it's starting to heal over nice, but we got to be very careful with the tree and make sure we don't lose this tree. And so got this really nice long branch out here in these divisions. So divides into 3, 1, 2, 3. And I like these other 2 branches better. I can go ahead and cut this one all the way back to its beginning, and we can get rid of some of the leaves down in here and put that in soil and have some cutting. We'll have lots of cutting potential from today. And so this branch, also again from the front, this one comes forward, gives it some nice texture. I like that, but we're just going to go ahead and cut it shorter, and we're going to cut it shorter for right now. And then we'll get more splits right there. I'm going to go ahead and cut this one shorter and this one shorter. This one I'm going to go back to here because I have a really nice branch growing up right there. Not just leaves back here, but a branch right there. So we'll see what that does in the future. Cut this a little bit shorter. Now we have this one really big with a couple of nice divisions up there, but again it's a super tall. We'll use that as a cutting. And we're just bringing this all down compact from the back of this tree. This one's growing into the forest. We're just going to cut that whole thing off, and that's another cutting right there. And look at right there. Look at that bugger right there. So I did notice my PAs had some Japanese beetles. So when I catch that vole, maybe I could feed this to the vole. Will the vole eat that? No, I don't think so. So, cutting. Now this part of the tree splits into 2 really nicely, but they're 2 very parallel branches. But there's this one growing back here, so I'm going to cut this one here, so I only have 1 parallel branch there, and then we'll cut it back to where it's dividing here a little bit. Looks like there's a little bit of vole damage, not vole. I'm going to get my critters mixed up here. Japanese beetle on that one. We're going to go ahead and cut this branch that's facing down. And now this tree isolated is a nice little tree. It's leaning this way a lot, again, which we will correct in a future planting. But for right now, we will just let it go. Now the other thing I can be doing on this tree while I have it out and doing this work right now is we can cut a lot of downward facing succulent leaves here and make it look a little bit more like everything's growing up, and just get rid of some of the clutter down below. So we'll do that as well on this tree. So again, if we just look at that tree right here in isolation, it's a nice little tree. Got a little bit more growth out here than perhaps we need. Shorten that one a little bit, shorten that one a little bit. Now this branch is kind of odd. It's going out, but there's a branch here. It's going to block all that out, and it grows from way in here on the tree. I'm just going to cut that out and leave a little bit more light and airiness right here. Now these 2 are going to compete. This one's growing up and tall. I like that, but this branch is growing into that one. We'll just cut that one off. Now we have some space in here. So for right now, I'm not really focusing on like a lot of crazy design decisions per se. It's just kind of opening things up and letting this thing sprout off, because there's a lot of growth in here. If you can see right in this branch right here alone, there is so much foliage going on in there. So we might go ahead and clip some out and open this structure up just a little bit. And again, as I go along, when I see these things growing straight down, we can cut those off. Now, if you look at this branch right here, this is growing back into the trunk. We're just going to cut that off, and again, have more air going into this tree. So from this angle, it's a pretty fun tree. It goes up over here. This is the one with the scar in the front. You don't see the scar this way. This branch comes up and over here and moves over this way. This one comes up this way, splits nicely there, and then there's one back there for texture. It's a really nice little tree, so maybe someday this will be separated and given its own little pot. We'll see. We're just growing to keep getting these thicker and thicker. And again, I've got so much little growth in here that I can just nibble away at some of this foliage. It's almost kind of like a defoliation here right now to get rid of some of this massive growth. And it's just going to go crazy for the rest of this year, because right now in Minnesota, even though we still have a lot of humidity in Minnesota, we're going to see lots of good growth on this guy sitting out here on the deck. Gets full sun for several hours of the day. It's warm. Again, when you're thinning this out too, I can take off some of these foliage pieces to let more light in here to see where the next divisions are going to take place and see which branches are going to now take form for the next pruning, the next iteration of this tree. If you look inside the tree right here, this is the branch I was going to keep. But look down in here. See down in there? This is an inside facing branch that's also just cluttering up in there. We'll get rid of that one. So that's going to allow some more light in there as well. And we'll see where this tree moves in the future. All right. Now, here's another decision I can make. I have this branch coming out this way, and this one's right above it coming out here. It's on the same plane here. This one's more developed. But I'm going to keep the higher one and open up that tree a little bit. We'll let this one take over. Milo knows I'm out here. So again, thinning out. There's a lot of foliage in here. A lot of foliage that we just don't need. A couple spots where there's little leaves in here and there's a big old leaf. We can just sometimes pluck that one right off like I did right there. Here's another downward facing branch, or leaf I should say. This one's kind of down. This one's going inside. We get rid of some of those and we create more space for this tree. I think we're going to call it for tree number one. I always say that, and then I cut 3 more branches off, but that happens when you're twisting a tree around and you get another angle, and there you go, there's another branch right there. But let's just call it right there. Look at how thick these tree is right over here. This one was kind of like that, and now we've got some nice trimming on this tree, and we should be in good shape. And we're going to tackle the other side. So this one's coming into the other tree, so I'm going to go ahead right away and cut that branch off. There's a cutting for us. We got several spots for cutting. So that was coming here and blocking up this branch, which this branch will be trimming down too. It's got a nice new branch here that, look, it's growing out and then up right away. That's kind of fun. So I'm going to cut that leaf off. I'm going to cut that leaf off. And if I can get into there, cut that leaf off. Now there's a little bit of gap between the tree there, and it goes into the forest a little bit, but for this individual tree, I like it. Although it is a bar branch to this one out here, but we'll decide that later if it becomes a solo tree. There's an inside branch right there. Now this guy up here. So before I make this cut up here, I want to decide, so if this was a solo tree, would I want that to be the main leader? I've got this movement here. I think either way, I like the movement of this one better. You see this movement up here? Comes up here, goes up this way. We're going to actually cut this off right here for now. I'll offer a little die back there. We've got this. This could go in the ground and create a twin trunk. I won't do that. I'll just cut this off. We've got 2 very big cuttings there for some future future really nice looking PAs. So I cut this one off. So even if this is the main trunk, it goes back this way now. We'll let that one see what it does. And there's a branch back here too. We're just going to cut it shorter. Another possible cutting. And then even though this is our new leader, it splits up here pretty nice. Splits down here pretty nice. We're just going to go ahead and cut that. So if this tree ever becomes a solo tree, I feel that the front is going to be in here where we have this nice curve and it splits into two. So it's hard to make some decisions on what to keep and not to keep. This is the primary trunk for sure, and it's a really nice secondary. Here's the first primary branch, I should say, the trunk. First branch is way down here, but we may cut that one off someday. Let's cut that one off and make these two the primary, and they split right away. So it could become a really interesting tree. We are going to cut off this bottom one. We are going to cut off this inward-facing branch and this inward-facing branch for right now. I do like all this movement on this branch. I'm going to cut this bottom one off, and right there. I'm just going to leave that for now, but this is getting blocked out by all of this up here. So what are we going to keep? Now again, if this is the forest of this current planting, we want to see this tree a little bit. We'll trim this one down, of course. And that's why I also cut this off, because as a planting of a forest, we want the tree to grow over more this way. So I could even cut this whole tree right here. If I cut the tree right here, we've got this upward growth, and then it goes this way. This could become a new leader of this tree. And if I even cut this right here one step further, this becomes more of the leader. It's going back more though, but look at this guy right here. It's kind of a weird branch growing to the side here, but if I cut this part off right now, which I just had no problem cutting that one off, this becomes this kind of really interesting curvy branch right here, and we'll just let that one go. That could be kind of fun. Got some old wound here that wasn't cut very well. So I got a downward facing branch right in there. I'll get rid of that. Now this one goes to the back more. We're just going to cut it shorter. We're going to go ahead and cut this one. Just one shorter for right now. Again, this is thicker than our new leader if this is a leader. So this could become a leader. This could become a leader. This is getting most of the energy right now, so it might stump this a little bit. This is kind of growing at us, so let's just cut it shorter. We're going to cut this one shorter. It's a bar branch to the one on the inside, so let's cut that inside one off. And now it's not a bar branch anymore. And again, we'll cut these off, so the directional pruning, this grows more up or out next time it has a push. There we go. Take off some of these hanging branches so you can see what's going on here. So this is the prettier part of the branch, but this might provide some nice texture down here. We've got this inside branch growing straight up. I'm going to cut that one off. This one's hard to see with all the growth, but right down here, this is growing inside. This is also growing inside. We're just going to cut that off for right now. So as you see now, our second tree, it's a fun little tree, even all by itself. Even if this was the main trunk, we've got this in the back and this in the back, this down here. We could thin this out here so this goes more the main leader. And then those two can become more of the tree. Just trimming some bottom-facing branches off this back one here. This is kind of hidden in the forest, so it might not do a whole lot. As we pull this branch away, there's this really big curly one back here. That's a fun branch, but it's not going to do anything in the forest. So for right now, we made some space right here for this tree, and we'll shorten those branches up as well. So we got this one kind of growing back at us, which takes away from the beauty of the tree here. So we'll cut that off. Cut this little one off here to have some space between the branches here. So the second PA on the Forest of Three is doing pretty well. And again, could this be the front of a tree someday, right here? We lean this up back over here. I don't know if we can see a front in there someday. So we have a lot of potential with this tree. A couple other little ones back here. All right, let's stop there with tree number 2, and let's work on tree number 3 right in front here. Well, this one's coming out at us just way too much. There's a big cutting. This one's at our face too. We're going to go way back to where it starts to grow up at the moment. Because you don't want to cut every single branch off all the time, because we're going to get this flat front that sometimes isn't desirable. I have a branch right here that's growing inwards. We're going to cut that off and open up that space a little bit. So I got all these branches down here now. This is a nice branch growing down here. This is kind of in our face, but it curves to the left with all these other branches. This one goes to the right. Kind of a fun direction, but it's going to come and be in our face eventually, so I don't know if I want that one long term. There's some new growth trying to grow right in here. Just cut that off. One coming down here. So if this does become a solo tree sometime, I've also, again, believed that this backside is a little bit better. Too hard for y'all to see, but that backside might provide a better front than the actual front. So I have to be careful of what I cut off. This one might be hanging down too much. I'm going to shorten this to the inside growth, and I'm going to shorten this one. This one could almost completely come off here. As a matter of fact, I will cut that one off and have this as the primary branch, and we'll cut this way back. Got some nice movement here. Cut this back to there. We'll leave it there for now. This one can come completely off someday too. It's now got some branches growing up, but they're growing in towards the trunk. So we don't need either of those two. And if we just shorten it to this growth out here, that's shorter for now, but it's kind of causing some problems. We'll have to, with this guy right here actually. I'm actually going to cut this one off so they don't compete at the moment. Let's go get this eyesore out right away. Let's get this eyesore out right away. I think this one even creates too much of a problem. And this one's growing inside. We'll cut that off. Now we'll just let this kind of grow up this way. That's fine for the moment. Again, we'll cut off this bottom one and this bottom one and make that be the leader up there. There's a new one trying to grow right there. We'll cut that off. That's an old one. Let me just clean that up a lot right there. And this one still might come off someday. Could make this chunky up in here. We got some really thick, the trunk is really thick up here. New growth on the inside of the branch completely. We don't want that. I might have to decide one day which of these I'm going to keep. I've got this main trunk here that splits off here and here. This splits into two way back there and here, and then this one splits into two right there. So it's a very nicely divided tree. But then look up here. Got this crazy growth. This all happened outside this summer, right here and here. This one's going up and inside, a very weird angle. We'll cut that one off. Now this one splits down here, but I don't want the inside growth. I don't want this little growth here. Not right now. And there's my split right there after the split down here. So you can see that. It's a nice split in there. But again, from this other side, it looks pretty good too. I just don't know what I'm going to end up keeping in the end. Now I also see a little bit of reverse taper right here where these two are taken off. And so I think I'm going to cut this inside branch off, get rid of some of that reverse taper right now. This one we're going to cut shorter. This one, we'll get rid of this down-facing leaf and cut shorter so it grows more up. So you see this branch right here going straight up. And that's just not aiding to the design of this tree very much. We want this growth out here instead. This one's still growing to our face. I think we'll just cut that one right off. Now we can see this tree from the front a lot better. So this one back here crosses these two back here, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and make the big cut like that. See how thick that trunk was? That's pretty nice. That could be an interesting cutting. So let me see. Oh, there's a branch inside here that's growing. We'll just cut that little one out. So I can trim this up just a little bit better. There, that'll heal better. So that got rid of this right here, which clogged up with this back part right here. I have a branch that wants to grow inside off of that new branch right here. It's just growing inside. That's going to create problems. There's an inside branch. This one's curving back in a really funky way. Let's just open this up. I'm just shortening these branches back here. Here's this back one that might not stick around very long. Just make it shorter. So this one grows in towards this other tree. Right now we'll just cut it off until it's a solo tree. This will just provide a wide open tree now with probably 75% less branches and foliage, and it'll provide this second summer push for us, which will be just super nice. It'll be nice and thick as we get ready to go inside for the fall and winter months. And again, I get really good growth under the grow lights inside. And so you can do a lot of really good things with the PAs. Some of the club members with Minnesota Bonsai Society have agreed that the artificial lights in Portulacarias inside, he almost gets more growth in the wintertime than he does in the summertime. But this push I've just gotten in the last 2 to 4 weeks has been fabulous, and I hope that'll continue. So here's my forest right now, and we're a little flat, right? If you want it to look like a forest, you know, we probably would have an apex here, and it kind of would have this maybe, or even kind of down here from this tall tree. So, you know, can I make these a little bit shorter? I certainly can. I can make this a little bit shorter. Take this inside out one here. Let's take this whole one off right here. That thins out that tree a little bit, so this one's a little bit taller again. Now this one, to get smaller, we'd have to get rid of that branch. Am I okay with doing that? I certainly am. It appears my camera stopped just before I finished the pruning of this forest of 3. So here is the final result of our pruning. This left tree we even brought down a little bit further because this one wasn't quite tall enough to show the tallest, more dominant tree. So we got a little bit of lowerness here, a little bit of lowerness here. We chopped down this big thick one here to get this one as our main leader. And if this doesn't last, I got this and this. And again, there's no real taper from here to here, so we want to thin this out eventually anyway. I could even cut this one down to here now and have that as the new leader. Should we do that and be bold? Let's do that and be bold. We have this branch over here and this nice texture back here, so we'll let this one come here, and that's the new leader. Now we have a little bit more taper, or this could become the leader. We'll see in time. There we go. So there's our 3 trees. The forest of 3 has come to an end. Let's put it back on the bench.